Before we start, can I just ask you all to remain in your seats during the ceremony? We do have photographers here with us today, so they will be taking plenty of photographs for you, and you will have opportunity after the event. Okay, so we'll just wait a few more moments and then we can start. If you do have phones, I forgot to mention, please put them on silent, and that goes for our students as well. Hopefully we can have a noise-free event. Okay. So if I can, we have the faculty are going to process in. If I can ask you to stand as they enter the building, please. All staff and students, and guests. Okay, thank you. Please be seated. On behalf of RCSI, my colleagues who have joined us, a very warm welcome to this white coat ceremony. We've had a few disruptions over the past few years, so it's very pleasing to see that all families and friends are able to join us today. For those of you who have not been to RCSI before, please take the opportunity to have a look around. For those of you who've not even been to Bahrain before, it is a wonderful country. Please visit it while you're here and discover some of the sights. If I'd like to now invite Professor Alf Nicholson, Vice President for Academic Affairs and Head of the School of Medicine at RCSI Bahrain, to deliver the School of Medicine address.
Thank you, Professor Steve. Students and family members, it's really a great privilege and honour to be here with you this evening. To celebrate a stage post in time whereby your sons and daughters are now moving into the hospital arena, and to signify that, they, for the first time, don a white coat. And I think it is a very significant day and a very significant time in their lives. I remember my first donning a white coat and the ceremony that went with it. A very proud day for you as parents, and a very happy day for the students. What advice would I give to students? There will be plenty of advice offered later on from both the student, Abdul Wahab, and from Professor Naji. But my main advice would be, the first piece of advice is, as William Osler, a very famous physician, said, listen to the patient. He is telling you, or she's telling you, the diagnosis. So make sure that you listen to the patient. And of course, the second bit of diagnosis came from a famous golfer called Arnold Palmer, which is, the more I practice, the better I look here I seem to be on the course. So when you're examining patients, you've got to examine lots of patients and examine them, firstly, it may be in a simulation lab. It may not be very good, but as you get better and better, you certainly get better with practice. So practice your examination skills, because at the end of the day, what we hope to achieve is the finest graduates that you can be. And I think we will achieve that, and you will achieve that by both practice and thinking about and engaging with patients. It's not just about being a good technical doctor, it's about engaging with people, and you will meet families who are in a very vulnerable position and who essentially need your help. So I think be very cognizant of that. I'm slightly, if you get uncomfortable, because this year is a new departure, in a sense, a breaking away from your family, whereby the students are now massed on stage, and I think it's very appropriate. It's what they would wish, and I'm delighted that they have gone up on stage today. Today's event couldn't have taken place without the work of many academics and the support teams throughout the last number of years, and I'd like to thank the Foundation Year team, the Medical Commencement Programme team, the Language and Culture team, the Year 1 and the Year 2 teams, and I'd like the students to give them all a clap. I'd like also to thank the Student Service and Event team led today by Fatima, who's done a fantastic job. The place looks superb, and it really is such a joyous occasion. So without further ado, I'd like to say congratulations to each and every one of the students on reaching this milestone. I cannot recommend a career more than a career in medicine and in healthcare. You really will be, I think, hopefully ambassadors for yourselves, for your country, for your parents, and for us as a university in the years to come. So well done, and many happy days ahead. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Professor Naji Alamuddin, Associate Professor and Deputy Head of School of Medicine, RCS High Bahrain, to the podium.
Professor Nicholson, Excellencies, academic colleagues, distinguished guests, parents and family members, medical students. It is my great honor to welcome you all to today's White Coat ceremony. For those who don't know me, my name is Naji Alamuddin. I'm an endocrinologist and an associate professor of medicine here at RCSI. More importantly, I'm also a graduate of this great institution myself, which is why I'm so greatly honored to be speaking with you all here today at this important occasion. Before I address the students, I wish to give a special thank you to all the parents and family members who are here with us today. Pursuing a life in the field of medicine is incredibly difficult on any individual, but it is equally taxing on the family members who stand by us and provide that bedrock of support that allows us to dedicate our lives to serving our patients. Without your hard work and generous support, none of us would be here today. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for the role you've played in making today a possibility. Students, I want you to take a moment and reflect on the journey that brought you to this moment. Remember every long day and each sleepless night, because it was your hard work and sacrifice that put you in this position today, the official start of your clinical careers. Every doctor remembers their white coat ceremony as the day when they achieved entry into this prestigious profession, which very few can attain. In just a few moments, which you've already done, you've slipped on your very first white coat. I want you to feel the gravity and importance of what that means and what your white coat represents. The traditions of medicine that are symbolized by the coat as someone who teaches, helps, treats, serves, and heals. This is a great responsibility as well as an incredible privilege. I always like to give a brief history of the white coats and explain why they are so important and such an integral part of what we do today. It was not always the case that doctors wore white coats as we imagine them today. Not so long ago, doctors dressed in dark, formal suits like you'd imagine a lawyer or a banker. The attire was formal, but arbitrary and uncoordinated. As the medical profession made great strides in better understanding treatment and healing, the institution as a whole introduced the white coat to represent a shift in our approach to medicine. These coats were a symbol of science and evolution. They were a sign of cleanliness and sterility, as well as transparency and trust. The white coat exhibited the doctor's professionalism and care for their craft, which in turn helped build trust with the patient. A doctor in a pristine white coat lays bare his or her dedication to cleanliness and sterility, knowing each and every stain would be magnified when contrasted against the bleached white canvas. The white coat also represents a commitment and a sacred responsibility. Wearing it comes with the benefit of every positive experience the patient has had with the doctor before you, as well as duty to each doctor who comes after you to have done justice to the white coat and all that it represents. Please don't take this responsibility lightly. It is the cornerstone our profession rests on. And rarely has the white coat been more of a symbol of hope in the world. Over the last 3 years, we've had to endure the worst pandemic of our lifetimes. Millions of people have fallen ill over the globe, with doctors and hospitals, as well as nurses and healthcare workers, at the forefront of this battle, working tireless hours under the most grueling of circumstances. More so than ever, people look at us for help in their most dire of circumstances. Today, tens of thousands are stuck beneath the rubble of a destructive earthquake that brought devastation to Turkey and Syria. And once again, doctors are there to answer the call. For those victims in need of aid, the white coat is a symbol of hope and salvation. We must never take this responsibility for granted. Equally as important as the white coat, I'd also like you to have you reflect on the single most important tool you'll carry with you in your career as a physician, the stethoscope. As a device, it is indispensable. And as a symbol, it is inseparable from the white coat as a representation of modern medicine. The stethoscope was invented in Paris in 1860, at a time when medicine was going through a crisis of credibility. This invention served two roles. First, it allowed the doctor to achieve auscultation, which is the process of listening to the sounds of the internal parts of one's body. But more importantly, it reoriented doctors on the most important part of their job, getting close to our patients and listening. This is the key lesson I want you to take away from this day. To properly use this tool you will carry in your hands, you'll need to get close and listen. And I don't just mean listening to the patient's breathing or their heartbeat. Getting this close to your patient, making contact with them in their state of vulnerability opens that line of communication. They will speak to you with their body and their voice. The key to your success as you embark on your medical education and for the rest of your professional life is in how well you listen. This may sound like a trivial piece of advice, but it would shock you to learn how poorly most of us do this in our personal and professional lives. Without listening, a doctor can never truly treat their patients. We live in a time of incredible technological advancements in the field of medicine. We have lab investigations, CT scans, MRIs, PET scans that can help us see things doctors in the past could only dream of. And the pace of advancement is only accelerating, with breakthroughs happening every day. Yet these tools can sometimes become too much of a crutch for doctors, keeping them too focused on tools and machines when the answer most often lies with simple time spent with the patient. But in this area, you are at an advantage over your peers, because RCSI will train you to keep your focus on the patients in the ways that matter most. I remember my time at RCSI when I learned that 80% of the diagnosis can be made from the history and physical exam alone. And at this point, I like to quote Sir William Osler, "Medicine is learned by the bedside and not in the classroom. To study the phenomenon of disease without books is to sail an uncharted sea, while to study books without patients is not to go to sea at all." A doctor's number one job is listening to the doctors, nurses, X-ray technicians, and everyone else involved in helping to deliver proper treatment. But most importantly, a doctor's job is listening to the patients. This is something you're going to hear over and over from your teachers at RCSI, but you won't understand the importance of this lesson until you're practicing on a daily basis. That was the case for me and for every good physician I speak to. In the course of your careers, you'll find it easy to reduce your patients to clinical cases, but I implore you, take the time to talk to your patients, examine them, and listen. Engage with them at a human level, with empathy and humanity. These will be the key lessons and values RCSI will seek to ingrain in you, and if you are successful, they will be the cornerstone of your entire philosophy on medicine. speaking in front of you today, I asked myself, what do I wish I had been told when I was in your position so many years ago? Looking back at my own experience, I wish I had been told this. You have chosen a difficult path. There will be many sleepless nights. You will be pushed to your limits emotionally, physically, and mentally. You will sacrifice so much while you watch your friends enjoy their lives and achieve their milestones. You will demand patience and empathy from your friends and family who did not make the same choices you made. You will always be looking towards the next stepping stone in an endless series of hurdles that will make you feel desperation and regret. You'll feel like you've put your life on pause while the world continues to move around you. My advice to you is to stop looking ahead at your future, because the reality will be much different than anything you can imagine today. Ground yourself in the present. You'll have a lifetime being a working physician. Cherish every person you meet and every mistake you make on this path. Cherish every hardship and celebrate every success. Stay focused on the journey. You'll only get to experience it this one time. Make it mean something. Build the foundation on which the rest of your life will stand. Don't wait for tomorrow to start putting it in the work. The greatest lesson we can learn from our patients is that we each have a finite number of tomorrows. My 12-year-old son recently told me that he wants to be a doctor. I paused for a moment. How should I respond? I reflected back on my career. Despite the stress, the long hours away from home and family, I could never imagine a different career. Being able to treat patients and make a difference in their lives has been the greatest satisfaction of my lifetime, and it is a daily reminder that all the hard work and sacrifice pays off. You have been given a gift, this ability to intervene in people's life and make a positive impact. I cannot imagine a more fulfilling career. So what would I answer my son when he says he wants to be a doctor? I would encourage him with all my heart, and I hope to one day see his face looking back at me as you are today, and I hope to one day feel that sense of pride as your friends and families feel you for here today, right now, in this moment. To the RCSI class of 2026, congratulations on all you've achieved. We're proud that you're all with us here today. We are privileged to be part of your education. Welcome to the family, and thank you for allowing me to take part in this special moment with you. Please give yourself a big round of applause.
Thank you, Professor Naji. Now I invite Abdul Wahab Al-Sayed to the podium to give the senior student presentation. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Greetings and blessings to the faculty, parents, and most importantly, the stars of today's ceremony, all the Year 2 students here. I'm Abdul Wahab Al-Sayed, a senior Cycle 1 student, and it is an honor and a privilege to stand here before you all to share just a tiny glimpse of my medical journey. And if I'm being honest, it started right here 2 years ago with my own white coat ceremony. Before doing so, however, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge everyone here who's reached this far. It's no easy feat. And depending on how you might see this voyage, you're either halfway there or right at the very beginning. With that said, I'd like to share with you a few experiences, starting with one that happened just a few weeks ago. While taking a patient's history at the psychiatry ward with 2 other colleagues, we ended the session and we thanked the patient, not before being interrupted, of course. He asked us, "Could you guys discharge me?" We all looked at him in disbelief. After all, we're just students. We don't have that kind of authority. He pointed at my colleague to the farthest left, and she replied by saying, "I'm sorry, I'm just a student and I can't do anything else." And then he pointed to my next colleague, and once again, he said the same exact thing. Finally, he came up to me with hopes that this time the answer might be different. And I'm not gonna lie, for a split second, for some strange reason, it was hard to tell him that I was a student. I saw the poor guy try twice already, and when alas came my turn, and as an avid believer of, you know what, 3rd time's a charm, I told him, "Consider yourself discharged." Obviously that isn't true. I did unfortunately tell him that I was just a student, and I did apologize. However, Going through this moment was a constant reminder of how powerful our scrubs are and our white coats perceptually to the people. For many consultants and doctors, they can easily discern a student from a field of scrubs. But to the general public, we're one and the same. And it is our relationship that keep everyone informed of and it's our responsibility to keep everyone informed of our abilities, not just for our well-being, but for the well-being of everyone else. I'd like to share with you another moment that I had experienced a year ago, but one that still resonates with me today. It was a cold day at Kuwait and Mbarak Hospital. I was there to conduct research, and my job was to collect blood samples from inflammatory bowel disease patients who also took the COVID-19 vaccine. Sometimes I would encounter skeptics, and they wouldn't even want to discuss anything. However, this was not always the case. A day did come when I had the opportunity to discuss this with a newly diagnosed Crohn's disease patient. And I managed to tell him what Crohn's disease was and what the benefit of COVID-19 vaccines are to him, especially considering he has a chronic condition himself. At the end of our conversation, he told me his family are skeptics, and even if he wanted to, he couldn't take the vaccine. 2 weeks had passed since that moment. And since then, I managed to see him once again, and when he entered the room, I saw a smile on his face. Before I managed to ask him why, he told me, "I took the vaccine, and you know what, my family did too. Thank you." I later found out that he managed to convince his family using my explanation. And to this day, it's still resonating with me, and I can't believe it. It was the first time I had ever felt like I had positively impacted someone's life, one that even trickled its way to people I've never spoken to. And it made me reflect and realize, as future doctors, we play a massive role of influence to people. I mean, the patient already knew that the vaccine was beneficial, but it's the way that we formulate our words and share our wealth of knowledge that ultimately influence their decision at the end. You know, they call medicine an art, and at that very moment, I began to understand why. With that said, I'd like to leave you with a poem my mother shared with me. إن أردت الشفاء فاقصد طبيبا حاذقا ذا اللطافة وذكائي واحترس أن يكون فظا غليظا إن لطف الطبيب نصف الدواء. It emphasizes that people shouldn't just purely visit a doctor based on their wealth of knowledge and their experience, but instead be wary of a rude and a dry doctor. For kind-heartedness is half of the medicine to treat the illness. Thank you all, and congratulations to the class of 2026.
Thank you for that presentation. We now turn to the student declaration. So during the declaration, I'd like all of the guests to remain seated, please. As I say, we will have photographers taking photographs. However, students, I'd like you to all stand up, please, with your cards at the ready. Okay, please recite after me. In the presence of this gathering, I, state your name.
I, Abdullah,
will practice my profession with conscience and dignity.
will practice my profession with conscience and dignity.
The health of my patient will be my first concern.
The health of my patient will be first concern.
I will maintain the utmost respect for human life.
I will maintain the utmost respect for human life.
I will respect the confidential information that is entrusted in me even after the patient has died.
I will respect the confidential information that is entrusted in me even after the patient has died.
I will not permit considerations of age, disease or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient.
I will not permit considerations of age, disease, or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient.
I will abide by the code of conduct of my profession, and I will promote high standards of practice, lifelong education and research in the interest of human health.
I will abide by the code of conduct of my profession, and I will promote high standards of practice, lifelong education and research in the interest of human health.
I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honour.
I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honour.
Congratulations, you may sit down. Thank you. This ends the proceedings. I would ask all of our guests to remain seated while the students and staff go up to the fountain for a traditional photograph. But I will invite you all for some light refreshments in the first floor in the atrium of the main building after the photographs. Thank you all very much. If I can invite the staff and students to process out, please.
Parents, please make your way to the atrium. There are students on the way to guide you.